Hello, my Franz, and welcome back to another episode of Wavecast. I'm your host, Andy, and today we're joined by the team behind the Marine Institute's own journal, the Journal of Ocean Technology. With us on the show today, we have four members of the journal's production team: Kelly Santos, the publisher; Don Roche, the managing editor; Bethany Randall, the assistant editor; and Danielle Percy, the brains behind JOT's graphic design, photography, and social media. Really appreciate y'all taking the time out to chat with us today. And so, to get the ball rolling, could you tell us a bit about what exactly is the Journal of Ocean Technology?
I can start, I guess. The Journal of Ocean Technology, we started in 2006 um, as a means to try to connect users of technology with developers of technology. And we do that through a series of short articles, essays, and peer reviewed papers. And so the hope is that the idea behind it is that a researcher could be reading through the JOT, see a technology that's in use, and then say, hey, I could use that for this way, and sort of adapt it to how they might need to use it. So we're trying to make those sparks of connections.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that. You don't really hear about that sort of thing happening very much, I don't think. So I guess like what kind of gave you the idea to start this process and connect people from like the users to the people that are actually producing the technology?
Andy, the four of us came on board after the JOT started. Danielle came in about maybe 7 or 8 issues in, and I came in about 8 or 9 issues. So the idea had already been in place. Um, it was formed by the Canadian Centre for Marine Communications, which eventually merged into the Marine Institute and became the School of Ocean Technology and the Centre for Applied Ocean Technology, CTEC. So that's where it came from. There was two gentlemen there that wanted to start a journal. Um, there was a journal down on main campus that just did tech papers, and that journal became the middle part of our journal. And then we padded that with essays and short articles on either side of the tech papers.
Oh wow, it's a really interesting process. Okay. In light of all of that, what do you think makes the JOT different from other academic journals out there, aside from the kind of like leading goal that you have of connecting tech users to the technologies?
I don't think there's any other journal out there that kinda does that padding of, like, having all the white paper peer-reviewed stuff in the middle and then kinda surrounding that with, I would say, more digestible content for, your average reader in the ocean tech space. That's my opinion anyway, that it's just a more, easy to jump into the JOT than your standard journal that has a bunch of peer-reviewed tech papers in it that are, definitely down in the weeds, and the essays and the short articles are a little bit easier to wrap your head around.
Yeah, some people definitely do get very confounded by the presence of academic articles, and so for those that maybe aren't as aware about the difference between like those essays and those like short articles versus an academic, how would you describe those being different from like a peer reviewed piece?
I think Bethany said it really well. Like it's much more digestible content, and you don't have to be a technical expert to really enjoy those sections and to take a lot away from them. So, if you have any level of interest or passion about the oceans, if you just want to learn more about what's happening in the ocean technology sector, there's really something for everyone. So, there's really great articles on what's new, what's current, what's innovative. We do Q&A with some of the industry leaders, which is really interesting, to see where they came from or, what particular piece of technology they're focused on or, hearing from people who have been in this industry for a long time and how the industry is continuing to change and evolve is really interesting as well. One of my favorite sections is the Lodestar section, which tends to focus more on early career researchers, early career technologists, people who are a little bit more I guess, a little bit newer to the field and getting their perspectives on, why they came into this sector, what their passion is, what their focus is, and that's been a really great opportunity for us to give a little bit of profile, give a little bit of space for people who are a little earlier in their career. So there's a really nice balance throughout the layout of the journal that has something for everybody. And to Bethany's point, for that reason, we've actually had a really hard time finding similar publications. We've gone through over the last couple of years some, strategic planning exercises and, looking at some new and exciting things that we can do with the publication. And you always kind of want to look at what the state of the art is, where you sit in the overall industry. And we've found that really challenging because the journal is really unique in that way.
But that's, in its own way, it's very cool because you're basically making your own position in the standing of academic journal or like, academic and like, slightly otherwise journals that makes it more accessible to people. Have you received testimonials from people to kind of, I guess, assure yourselves of the impact that you wanted to be having with your journal?
We have, when we finish an issue, we contact each author that's in that particular issue and just kind of say the issue's gone live and here's where you can get your link. It's fully open access, so anybody can read it and download it and share it anywhere in the world. And those authors will come back and tell us, "My God, this was an amazing experience. The design, the editing process, the connections that they made. They've heard from people from who are using similar technology or who want to learn about stuff that they're doing." So yeah, we do get information, some feedback back that helps us know what we're doing is right or what needs to be changed. So yeah, we do.
That's amazing. It has to be really, I guess, reassuring to y'all. In that sort of vein, can you tell us a bit more about the journal's journey and what sort of successes you've had along the way, along with the challenges that you faced, and how that feedback that you had, you were able to implement into it?
The successes, what we've found, we've when we first started the JOT, we had different columns in the short articles in the back, and some of them weren't. Um, They weren't as read, they weren't as easy to fill, and so as we got more used to who our contributors and our readers were, we've adapted some of those columns. So we basically had the whole back section was just one type of short article, and that was it, and that was sort of these profiles that we would do on companies, and we didn't find that that lot brought a lot of value for our readers overall. There was minimal interest even in from the companies themselves to get involved with that section. So we broke that down into a series of, Danielle, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 columns. And we put a different focus on each one of those. So now we have columns that the Q&A column, which Kelly alluded to earlier. We have the trade winds column, which are still our profiles. We have we have a column that lets you talk about how a piece of technology has evolved and tell us about your new technology and give us an opinion on your technology. So we're able to bring in different contributors to that section. So that was one sort of challenge that became a success because we needed to overcome uh, that section kind of being flat. And that's one of our most popular sections now. When we get calls for content issued for each issue, um, that one's often oversubscribed. So we're trying to find places for them. So that's certainly one of our successes. Danielle might want to talk about our social media in terms of success. Danielle, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So, along with my graphic design responsibilities with the journal, I've sort of taken the lead with the social media channels as well, which I love. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. And we've had an enormous amount of success in the last, say, year and a half, especially with LinkedIn. We've really found our groove. We do a lot of, with the lead up for each issue, like I'll do kind of little like teasers, like this is coming soon. You got to read this. This is chock full of, great stuff. Make sure you stop by the jot.net and you got to read this. This is great stuff. So I'll do those. And then once we've actually like the issue is published, then I'll break the issue down and highlight some of the essays, some of the short articles, and oftentimes I'll also do a post with the parting notes. And if you've read the journal, it's the very last page. And because I love art and artists and photography, that was a new addition actually to the Spindrift, something that Don and I had when we were revamping that section, we decided to open it up to artists to send in ocean related artwork. And that's one of my favorite sections in the JOT. So, but lately now with the social media, I've also been encouraging the team to do things that are a little bit more personal and kind of highlighting things that are happening. Obviously, still the contributors are super important, but we also want to do things a little bit. I want to do things a little bit more lighthearted. Like the other day, I posted a picture of a humpback whale jumping in front of the launch, and we had so much interaction with that, so much engagement with that post, so many shares, loves, likes, celebration. So that's something that I want to continue to do. And I'd like to take a screen capture of all of us and put this on our social media channels as well before we end this.
Yeah, totally. I love that idea. And
Yep.
it's really cool that, I think by making that like lighthearted leans, you're painting yourselves in a really in a more approachable way and like adds to that aspect of, that you're not just for the ivory tower people, but you're also like for the people that actually like otherwise also want to use like the technologies that you're advertising.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. And so I guess the next thing that I wanted to ask y'all is okay, yeah. What is the process and what goes behind the production of an issue?
It's a team effort, Andy. Um, it's a large effort, and I won't go into the detailed steps of it, but I will give you just sort of a quick overview. We issue a call for content to our international community, and Danielle puts it out on our social media. So if we have a upcoming issue on youth and the ocean, for example, which will be our fall issue, we will have issued a call for content for anyone who is interested to kind of send us a few words on what you'd like to write about. We take that and we work with our guest editor for that issue to look at the submissions we received. We decide yes, no, yes, let's put this here, let's make this, we kind of flesh out the content outline. We go back to the authors, we accept it. The authors then have about 2 months to put together their piece. That comes in. Then we start in on the editing process, which is myself and Bethany. From there, it goes off to Danielle, who does her magic to make the essays and papers look great and read great and flow well. Once the authors are fine with the design drafts and the edits, Danielle pushes a button and this journal appears.
That's exactly
Um,
what I do. I push a button.
and then we post it online, and Danielle again will put that out on our social media channels. We'll email our JOT community that it's there, and then we just watch sort of the reaction to that. That's a very small description of this process. I'm working now on the issues for our winter and next year's issues that the four of us would have picked the themes for next year. So it's a long process from start to finish, months.
Sure, it sounds like it. Like, yeah, I don't think people outside of academia as a whole don't necessarily understand how much time goes into it. Just like being a student in this area, um, it can be very frustrating. I think I find myself more on like the other side of it. It's like, ooh, it takes a long time to hear back from editors and that sort of thing. But it can really appreciate and this on y'all side of it as the publisher, how much effort that y'all are putting into this thing. especially when you're thinking about things like the next issues that you have on the timescale that you are, like, you're already thinking about next year. And I have to imagine, like, you probably have some people within your, like, in your contributors that, like, like a mixed bag of people. Like, you have some people that are better with, like, time and deadlines, and then you have those that are a little last minute that, throw, like, a little monkey wrench into the gears, so to speak, I
Oh, that
guess.
never happens, right? That never happens. Some poor assistant editor ends up being late, asking for extensions all the time. That never happens.
Happens to the best of us.
I think Dawn's silence on that answer is just an indication of how understanding and how patient she is.
Um, I guess, yeah, I was looking at y'all's website earlier, and I think the one thing that was really surprising to me being on the author side of things is how do y'all manage to keep the journal open access and with no author fees?
Um, we're quite pleased with the support that we have from the MI executive and the university as a whole. That enables us to do that. The executive sees the value of the JOT to the Marine Institute in terms of being a communication tool, but also in helping to promote what's happening at the Marine Institute. Because if we have a theme that fits what goes on at the Marine Institute, we have an opportunity to promote that as well. So the executive, right from the beginning, has been 100% supportive of the JOT, and we were very, very grateful for that because it enables us to be open access and not to have to charge author publication fees.
That that is such a blessing for people that are trying to get their work out there. And so, yeah, I'm just thinking about all the times that I've heard people complaining about how much they have to pay for open access and that sort of thing. And before you have to resort to other devious ways of trying to find access to either a publisher that's not going to rob you of your money, or or in the opposite side of things, like trying to get access to papers that weren't that, like, for instance, an author wouldn't want to pay the open access fee for, and that sort of thing, which is unfortunately a very common and a very frustrating part of doing research. Is there a part of the process that people would be surprised takes a lot of time and effort that you wouldn't necessarily think of?
There's two come to my mind. One is the peer review process itself is quite timely. Um, it takes a long time. That's what I mean by timely. We try to keep it within an 8-week period from when a paper is submitted and confirm that it fits our scope to being able to get back to the author with a result, yes or no, or maybe you can update and resubmit. We try to keep that to an 8-week process, but it's all based on using our international editorial board members and other review panel members who would be experts in that area of the paper. Um, to get them on board, we use a 3-person panel. So we have to identify the reviewers, um, see if they can work within our timeline, and then once we have the panel assembled, then they get their sort of, 6 weeks or so to do the review. Then it comes back into us, and we have to work back and forth with the author to make sure that the paper is ready for publication. So that process takes a long time, even in terms of us trying to identify potential review panel members. And the other sort of long piece is our strategic planning part, which is looking at what we're doing for issues, where we're going in the future. Um, Kelly, can I get you to talk to that?
Sure. No, that's a really good point. Um, I think it was 2 years ago now that we really did a deep dive into the journal and kind of, embarked, I guess, on, a really meaningful strategic planning process. We just finished celebrating 20 years of the journal last year, so very exciting, yes. So we felt it was time just to have kind of a look inward at our operations, at our layout, at our content, and our processes, and to everyone's credit here around this table, around this conversation today, it was really a really meaningful process. We put a lot of time into it. We reached out and we got some help externally from some local marketing teams, and we just always trying to keep the journal, um, I guess, ahead of the curve, which is where it needs to be. Simply because of the fact that it's focused on ocean technology. I mean, this is an ever-changing sector. It's a sector that's hard to stay on top of in some ways, just because the technology is evolving so quickly. It's being used in so many different ways. So just wanting to stay current and wanting to stay vibrant for the communities that we serve and for our user base and our reader base. So I think that's a really good point, Don. That the strategic planning process has taken a lot of time and a lot of effort, but I think it's served us well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. How do you manage to find that balance of like trying to stay, as you were saying, like on top of things and like ahead of the curve to make the info that you're presenting to people relevant and not behind the times?
I would give credit to our um, our network, just the journals network, because we do call on them a significant amount to constantly get feedback and ideas from them. So whether it's our editorial board or just our user base in general, we reach out across the Marine Institute. We're very fortunate to have the technical experts and individuals who have spent a long time in industry before they've come to the Marine Institute. So they have their own networks to draw on. We use that process to help us decide what our topics are going to be going forward. You know, what is relevant right now that we should focus on. And I think our topics over this past year are a real reflection of that, and, just how important these sectors are. So I think really drawing on the experience and the opinions and the expertise of our network is absolutely crucial, just to be able to know where we should be going with each issue, and who the experts are in those particular fields, and what are the really exciting things that are happening in these particular areas that we want to highlight in each issue.
So we kind of touched on this earlier. Have there been any particular outreach strategies that have been most successful for you in getting kind of the message out there in any way?
I definitely think that our social media channels have been really successful, especially LinkedIn. I mean, we have an Instagram account. We used to be on X. We have Blue Sky, but LinkedIn really seems to be where our audience is. There's so much engagement there, and we just a lot of likes and shares, and there just seems to be a lot of enthusiasm in on LinkedIn, and that's really been our success as of late for getting the message out about this is the journal, here we are, come become a part of this community.
You mentioned like community, and so I'm curious, like if that's at like an international level, or do you find yourself extending into because like at least one thread that I'm picking up on throughout like my whole history of being a podcast host so far is like especially within like this little area of the world and like a tiny little rock that we live on is like do you find yourself being able to connect to like rural kind of fishermen at all or if they like find themselves in need of uh, of like the JOT at all?
That's an interesting question. The last issue that we published had an essay in there that was written by MUN researchers all about the thoughts of rural fishermen on catching and bycatch mitigation strategies. So that was really interesting to see that level in our journal. It's not always in every issue because we don't focus on the fishery in every issue. So when we do have a fisheries issue, we always have someone local in there, either the crab fishermen or sometimes it's I remember Danielle, we had one local woman who was taking pictures of the fishing boats as they came back to shore after they would go off, 200 miles to catch their crab and bring that in. So there's connections in there, but it would depend on the theme for sure. Our community is global. Our latest call for submissions, again, to just refer to the youth and the oceans issue, we've got submissions in on 15 different topics from 9 different countries. So, Belgium and Ghana and Canada and Iceland, and we're very global. We're kind of poking our JOT into all pieces of the world.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. Has there ever been a submission that changed the way you thought about a topic?
During our Indigenous issue, there was a really wonderful article in there about aquaculture practices. And I'm an electrical engineer, so aquaculture to me generally means sea cages full of salmon. But aquaculture has been practiced for a long, 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 long time, with very different, more harmonious methods, using the natural ecosystem, natural geography of a particular place, and yeah, it just really opened my eyes to technology's been around for a lot longer than people tend to think, and there are multiple ways of doing things that I didn't know about. So it was really that one really stuck out to me.
I will throw this out. I'm not a technologist. I'm not an engineer. My background is communications. So for every issue that we do, I learn something new every time, every theme, every issue is something new for me. So if we're looking at underwater vehicles or aquaculture or biodiversity, it's all new to me. So every time I read it, I come away a little bit more enlightened than I had been. And this kind of goes back to Kelly's point at the beginning that we're trying to make the materials in there accessible to educated non-experts. So people who have a specialty in a different area, but could read these articles and come away with like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know they were doing that." And it just kind of sparks this sort of thinking process of, well, if it works for that, I wonder how it would work here. And so that's kind of for me, every issue is a learning opportunity.
That's incredibly wholesome. I love that. Have there been any particular moments of pride that y'all have had, either for yourselves or for the journal, uh, in the duration that you've been a part of the project?
If I could jump into this one again real quick. So I've been a fan of the journal long before I came to the Marine Institute because I, despite being an engineer, really love writing and really love reading. So when I came on board and Dawn gave me the opportunity to review papers, and I kept doing more and more until she asked me to be the assistant editor. But I was the guest editor for the issue about ocean vehicles. And on the cover of the Ocean Vehicles issue is a Open Ocean Robotics Data Explorer, which is this super cool autonomous surface vehicle that is made here in Canada by a company that's run by a woman out of BC. And a couple of weeks ago, we actually had the opportunity to have that vehicle or the second generation of that vehicle here. And I got to talk to the engineers and the technologists that run that vehicle and design it and operate it and fix it when it breaks and all the things that I would normally do for lots of other robots. And so then I think Danielle's going to put it up on the social media later, but I have this enormous smile on my face holding up the journal with these two other technologists, the journal that has their vehicle on it, me as the guest editor standing in front of this vehicle. I was over the moon to be able to have experienced that from a disconnected way, and then actually see the vehicle and have hands on the vehicle. It was just super, super cool. But moments of pride was being asked to be the assistant editor in the first place because that was always a dream.
Love that. Oh my gosh. Anyone else? Moments of pride.
I want to say that I was really proud of that we reached 20 years. I was like busting at the seams. I'm sure I was murmuring like all of last year. I was just so thrilled that, I mean, 20 years, that's a big deal for a publication, especially in this day and age when you see so many magazines and newspapers I mean, I'm of a certain vintage and I grew up with newspapers and reading and I just don't do it as much anymore. But the fact that, we're here and it's been 20 years and like Don said, I've been a part of the journal. I came on board in the summer of 2007. So it's almost 20 years for me with the journal. So it was really a really big source of pride for me, and I sort of took it and ran with it and created some 20-year specific ads for the journal, and we had a little hashtag cheers to 20 years because it's something to celebrate. 20 years is a big deal.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really huge milestone. I think like especially I think some people, 20 years is definitely not a small number, but I don't think a lot of people really recognize how much that means for a journal, especially a smaller one, when, a bunch of other journals are like find themselves to be like little branches of a greater scale one and especially like one that's like locked behind a paywall. Just want to reiterate to our listeners out there, that's a big deal. And something that's not very common for journals that aren't affiliated with any of like the big are there like big 3 companies? Like, if you're not like Nature or Science or like anything that's associated with Wiley, like it's so hard to get any like notoriety out there. So that's a huge props to y'all because that's really incredible. Are there any issues that y'all are particularly fond of or that you think, just, like, made your eyes very happy?
Women
The
in the
women in the
ocean.
ocean. Alright. What about that one stands out a lot to y'all?
It was really cool to feature other women in what has previously been a male-dominated industry across all aspects of ocean tech, and just the maritime sector in general. It's a male-dominated field, and we're making progress. Um, we've definitely made a lot of progress in the last number of years, but it was really cool to feature that progress, feature some really cool women that are really making waves.
I just want to say what a fierce cover this is.
Yeah.
Like, look at the strength here. This is fantastic.
No, yeah, that cover, as people in my generation would say, that goes very hard.
Absolutely.
And I think we've been talking a lot about like the feedback loop that we were able to take advantage of, and it was significant for this issue. So there was a lot of really positive feedback from everybody that contributed. I think that's probably I don't want to speak for the group, but they're certainly my favorite emails to get. Dawn shares all that good news that comes into her with the rest of the team, and you get these wonderful emails from people who have contributed and was what a positive experience. And then when they see that final product and they see what they're a part of, that just creates a real incredible excitement amongst our users. So it's nice to receive that feedback from the people who have contributed. And we haven't really touched on it much, but we're very fortunate in that we get a chance to work with some really incredible guest editors. Bethany referenced being a guest editor on one of our previous issues. I didn't realize how crucial that role was until I came into this position and I started working with the JOT team. But yeah, it's incredible to just see them take advantage of their networks and bring all those new individuals and those new contributors into the issues that we put forward. And I think that just getting all of that really positive feedback from our users once that issue is finished is really positive. And the issue that Danielle is referencing, we get some really great feedback from that one. So positive all around.
For all the listeners who can't see everyone in this call right now, it seems like this is a call filled with some very prominent women in the field right now. I imagine it's like y'all that are leading this effort behind the journal. And so how do you think that informs either how you approach that issue, but then also how you approach representation in other issues that aren't just that women in the ocean issue?
This is the first time we ventured into a women-focused issue, and we wanted to do that. It's 20 years, that would be into our 21st year, and we wanted to just highlight some of the amazing things that women are doing. But generally, every issue we look for equity and diversity all throughout. We want young people in their career, and we want veterans that have been around for a long time and have a lot of information to share. And we want males and females and gender diversity overall. All perspectives matter. And so it doesn't, for us, we want to be able to be the conduit that helps share all these perspectives, regardless of where you're from or anything like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that diversity also goes for our global reach, right? Like Don referenced, the women or the youth in the ocean issue coming up. And it's not just in that issue. We've had lots of contributions from all over the world, um, from every region, and it's really interesting to me to see the different perspectives that different communities from all over the world have, especially in the like the Southeast Asia and Bangladesh and all kinds of different diverse um, groups and cultures.
Do you see there being any particular demographics that you feel like you want to hear more from, but you haven't necessarily heard from that much?
I think Bethany makes a really good point about our global reach, and that's something we talked about. We kind of took a dive into in our strategic planning, and um, it seems like we every issue we're always talking about different ways that we can just expand that global reach. So, how do we reach areas or regions that we don't have a lot of particular input from, or we look at that through the members of our editorial board. We look at it when we're looking at guest editors. We look at it when we're starting to reach out to potential contributors for a particular issue. We're always looking to make sure that we get those global perspectives. And I think that's a reflection of the work that we do at the Marine Institute. So we do have a significant international presence. When you look at our mission and our vision, it's to take the work that we do to the world. And I think the international partnerships that we have, formally and informally at the Marine Institute, we really try to reflect that in how we go about just each issue when it comes to the journal as well.
Do you have any particular advice that you have for people that are looking to publish in the JOT?
I do. I do. Just contact us. That's it. Just contact us. We'll work with you. Tell us about your technology. Tell us about your research, and if we'll work with you to find a place that will be the right issue for you in the right format. Maybe it's a tech paper, and maybe it's a short article, maybe it's an essay. But that would be my advice: is reach out to us. We're very friendly. We're very open. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, so y'all heard it here, straight from the source. What are some things that y'all are excited for within the future of the journal, or any goals that you have for yourselves long term?
One of Danielle's goals is getting that social media followers counter up and up and up. I don't think we reached 1,000 yet, but we're closing in on it.
Oh, we're closing in on it, Bethany. You'll hear from me when we do. Yeah, definitely growing the social media. I'm excited. We are in the process of redesigning the website as well, and we've got a really great new design. Like we're working through it right now, and it'll be implemented soon. But it's really great. It's a brand new refresh. I've designed the journal website. I think this is my fourth time now. But this is gonna be the best one yet, is the new one. So I'm excited for that. I can't wait for that to happen. Yeah, along with growing the social media.
I'm excited about our 2027 themes. Um, we have them already in place, so we'll be looking at research vessels, technology in ice, marine transportation, and we're looking at dual use technologies in the defense sector. So that's our four for next year. And we haven't looked at them in some of those at all. And some of them we have not looked at in many, many years. So I'm really excited to see what's happening in those sectors, what's changed, what's evolving, what's new and innovative. So I'm excited about that.
Ooh, okay. Sounds good. I'll keep an eager eye open. Is there anything else that you feel like you want people to leave this episode with that you haven't gotten a chance to talk about yet?
can I just throw out just a couple of little stats if I can?
Please do.
Danielle mentioned that we have 85 issues published. And what that has translated into is over 1,900 articles from 2,200 authors from all around the world. And they're pretty big numbers for a journal that's a small journal done by a small team. They're big numbers, and we're quite proud of those.
It's amazing. Yeah, I'm proud of y'all. It's like really cool to know that this is coming out of the institution that I found myself at. But it's really cool, and it's like it's really knowing that there's a really great network out here, and that y'all are basically working to expand that even more, and at a very big level, no less, for such a small team as yourselves. I'm really impressed with everything that y'all are doing, and so I look forward to hearing more about all of the great things that come out of the JOT in the future. So, thanks so much, y'all, for joining us today and sharing with us about JOT. And so I'm really glad to have had y'all on the show today. So for more about the journal, you can check out their website at thejot.net. And if you have any stories you'd like to share with us or anything you want to learn more about, don't hesitate to reach out to the minds behind the podcast at wavecast@mi.mun.ca. And so thank you all for listening. And until next time, stay wavy, my frog.